What up, motherfuckers? And welcome to season 6, episode 26 of Dualistic Unity. We just had a really fun conversation about just what it's like to exist as a being with consciousness and subjectivity and um the trials and tribulations of that, and then arriving at the truth that you've always been enough the whole time. And that recognition really is the hole, or the cork that goes in the hole in that bucket that is constantly demanding more out of you. You're enough as you are. And it's fun to explore that with friends.
Absolutely. I'm definitely excited for you guys to check out this episode. We get into just discussing the judgments and pressure and the weight that usually arises from the false certainty of our assumptions and how we think we know how things should be, and because they're not that way, we judge everything, and then we feel this unbearable weight. And instead we could just be experiencing all of our explorations and our experimentations in the ways that we express ourselves. So I'm excited to share this with you guys and excited to hear what you guys think. So hope you enjoy. Boop,
All
boop.
right, let's get it poppin'.
Ow. My
Another episode of Dualistic Unity with Amanda and Jackie. I don't know. I was like, do these, I was gonna say real, but I mean, we're always real, but this isn't technically a real episode. This is just a normal classic episode, I think.
Yes.
Is like what the okay, anywho. The most awkward intro of all time. What's up, everybody? Amanda and I haven't really chatted in a few days, which, is good. I've been out there living my life. My hours at work changed for this week, so I haven't been able to go to the Patreon calls, and I'm also just trying to like focus more on what I'm going through, or like I've been craving a lot of silence and a lot of space recently. And I'm not sure why that is, but I'm allowing myself to lean into it. And I think that's okay. Like sometimes I'm a lot more social than others, and there's no right or wrong way to be. So yeah, that's where I've been at the last couple days or weeks. How are you, Amanda?
I am juggling a a surplus of balls, and I am surprised I haven't dropped one today, even though we got really close to dropping a couple of them. So I just jumped out of work mode and it snatched me back in, and then I had to crawl my way out. Not crawl.
Yeah.
We dance, but my job called me like right when we were about to start recording, and I'm just like, oh, one moment. Hi. Let me put on my corporate hat again. And that was good. That was good. But that has been my week since we last chatted. I have been swamped with just different projects and reports, and I had two very big presentations that I had to give this week, and one was on Monday and another was on this morning. So we were staying up pretty much like till like 3 o'clock in the morning last night and Sunday night, just so that we could make sure that everything was prepped. And then I slept at the very last second before I had to wake up to go to those early morning meetings. And thankfully, everything went off without a hitch because all the prep work was completed. So all I had to do was wake up, change my shirt, wipe the crusties out my eyes, and sit in front of a computer and jump in. And this time I remembered no robe because I got in trouble at work for wearing a robe at home with my coworkers. And apparently that's not professional. And I'm like, we're all working from home in our pajamas. Like, even if people are wearing a button up from the waist up, most, I will assume, are not in corporate gear from head to toe. So it just seems so funny that like I'm required to be corporate from the waist up. And and we're focusing, and that's the priority. And I think that's the most hilarious part, is that the priority is not, are we connecting and working together? It's, do you look like you're supposed to look? Because if not, you make people feel uncomfortable. And we're not exploring that discomfort. We're instead saying, you're not meeting the expectations. And I know that I understand 100% that I signed a contract that I was supposed to meet these wardrobe requirements, but I also signed that contract pre-COVID. So it just seems like, our priorities are so funny, because we think, oh, we're a team, we're working together, but I feel very easily judged by this quote unquote team that I'm supposed to be loyal to, and that I'm supposed to give, so much to, and yet that team like mentality seems like it's very conditional. And so it doesn't really feel like a team, it just feels like a corporate show, and we're all just supposed to pretend in a particular manner. So it just seems very funny. And I accommodated, I showed up exactly in my corporate wardrobe, and everybody seems to be very pleased, right? And I'm like, it just seems so funny that the biggest priority is not what I'm doing or how I'm doing it, but how I look.
Yeah, ain't that a bitch? That seemed like appearances are so highly prioritized in like the work culture, but also just in general. Like it's all like in order to feel like we're qualified or we have to have any air of like authority or like respect, you have to look the part, right? Because if somebody, is talking brilliantly and they're not, dressed like a professor, they're like wearing their pajamas, their hair's a mess. Like if they're a woman, they're not wearing makeup. And yeah, they're just not going to be taken as seriously because it's like just a bias that we have. I think partly it's like an evolutionary thing, something about we like things that are like attractive. And in psychology, we learned about like the halo effect, which is if you perceive somebody to be beautiful, you also perceive them to have other traits that you deem as positive and vice versa. So it is like a psychological thing, but I think it's just because of what we have prioritized socially and for what reasons. And there's a very big corporate interest in people being insecure and wanting to be beautiful, right? Or like put together. Like in order to wear your business professional, you have to be able to buy the nice clothes, right? So it's also kind of like a status symbol, but it is really annoying when it feels like people don't see past the appearance or that they're because that can be just blatantly obvious when somebody is just judging you based on the way you look. And it's annoying that that always seems to come first. Like you were covered. It's not like you were came in like a bikini or some shit and be like, oh, I'm working from home. Ah, please. Hey, girl. But
Break out
for
the
real,
tassels. These are my corporate tassels, everyone.
they're spinning in opposite directions somehow.
Counterclockwise.
You're like, watch, I can reverse it. Yeah, like you were covered. That's all that really should matter, especially when we're all working from home. Like, I feel like there would be value in allowing everybody to relax and feel relaxed around each other. And that's, I feel like, why I love being involved with DU so much. It's that it's like really just there's no expectations in that manner. So it's just fun. You're able to express yourself however you want. Like sometimes I roll out of bed. Like today, roll out of bed, put on my glasses, and it's time to record. Other days, I do my makeup for fun. Like I love doing that. It's so fun to like this is like my canvas that I get to do whatever I want with. And it's nice to know that it's never expected one way or the other. Like nobody's gonna judge me if I come in wearing makeup versus not. And like kind of and my other job, I do have a uniform. Like my in-person job, I have to wear a uniform. And it's okay to do it sometimes. Like you have to, like I'm not gonna like stir up a whole fit because I have to wear a boring uniform. I'm just gonna express myself in other ways. Um, and it's just nice to know that, okay, outside of like this very specific time that I agree to play by your rules because you're paying me, I can do whatever the fuck I want. It's not like, I don't know, I used to really put a lot of pressure on how I looked because that to me was something that I used to like feel valuable, was looking good and then the validation that I got from that. And so like if I would come to school like with no makeup in high school and people were like, "Oh my God, are you tired?" that would really bother me, right? And so I was constantly like maintaining this bar in my head. And yeah, I mean, still sometimes I mean, I'm not saying I never think about what I look like anymore or don't care, but it's a lot less important now because I know like it's just not it's the least interesting thing about me, you know what I mean? It's also not something that lasts or that is objective by any means. And thinking about the way you look, even if you like the way you look, takes up a lot of your mental space and takes away from your ability to just like let yourself live freely because you're like viewing yourself from an outside perspective all the time and then trying to conform to how you're judging yourself from that perspective, right? You're trying to like avoid the judgment that you already have of yourself. So I forget where I started this whole chain of thoughts, but yeah, it's just nice to not really give as much of a fuck. And then dressing up is just for fun again, like how it was when I was a kid.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, I agree because it seems to be the biggest priority is not just how you look physically, but how you look on paper. And there are so many times where I viciously judged the way that I looked in person and on paper because that's what I thought I was supposed to do. I thought I was supposed to look a certain way. I thought my life was supposed to look a certain way, and I usually just took the template that was given to me. I am a woman. I'm not a person first. No, I'm a woman first. And because I'm a woman first, I'm supposed to, wear certain types of clothing and certain types of shoes and certain makeup. And I wore very little makeup in high school. I was lazy. That's really what it was. I was so lazy. I didn't want to spend like hours putting on foundation and blush and bronzer and highlight. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm tired just looking at the list of shit that I have to do. And that's probably really what drove me to going in the opposite direction. But I still had a little B&B cream, which was like my hack for bronzer and foundation and concealers and eyelashes. My dad gave me his big beautiful long eyelashes, and so I was like, okay, we can skip that step. And I always had Vaseline, and that's how I kept my lips, and chapstick. I always had a chapstick, but I never did my eyebrows. I never put on bronzer and blush or anything like that. It was like B&B cream, Vaseline, chapstick, and that's about it. And but when I didn't wear the B&B cream, I definitely got some comments like, "You look tired." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm exhausted being a woman with your fucking to-do list that never ends. You're damn right I'm tired. You're damn right." But I still would be wearing very tiny clothes. I'd still be wearing little dresses. I'd still be wearing high heels. I'd still be wearing push-up bras. I'd still be doing a lot of the other things that I saw around me. And it just reinforced the idea that I wasn't enough. That's all it kept telling me was that, my body wasn't curvaceous enough. I wasn't womanly enough. I wasn't beautiful enough. And so I thought to at least make my life on paper beautiful if I couldn't be beautiful. And so I became incredibly ambitious and wanted to be the smartest person in the room. But that also was exhausting. And all these things I kept doing just kept needing more. And it just felt like a bucket with a fucking hole in it. And it just never, I never could feel full. And it's like, of course, I could never feel full because all the things I were doing were reinforcing the idea that we're not full, we're not enough. And so I understand that I agree to certain working requirements with the jobs, like we have to wear our uniforms. But it's like, what's the goal of that? Because you really need to separate customers from employees because you wouldn't know them otherwise. You know, if you're serving a table and you're in your shirt from home, how are we going to tell you the difference from you and the person you're attending to, Jackie? Hi, I won't know unless you're wearing a vest, or a black pants and a black shirt. How can
Yeah,
I
but it
tell
can
the
even
difference?
just be like you could just wear a t-shirt with the name of the fucking restaurant on it, and then everything else you could be able to choose, you know what I mean? And I feel like that would be fun and fresh, and like I love when I go into like places to eat and everybody's like the employees are relaxed and at ease and they don't feel like they're being watched and judged constantly. Like my not to call out my managers, but like my managers will point it out if you're wearing like the wrong color socks. Even though people can't, yeah, like if you're not wearing black socks, black shoes, they're like they're like, "Oh, interesting." And they're not going to get you in trouble for it, but it's like I feel your judgment right now. And I feel like it has you're thinking it has something to do with my how seriously I'm taking this job, but really I wear the black socks every day. I gotta wash them at some not that I have one pair of socks. Um, but yeah, I sorry to interrupt, but you're right. It's all it's all just the focus on appearance is so hollow. And yeah, like even though I always felt that looking a certain way would get me validation. I didn't like getting validation from that at the same time because I was like, don't you see I'm a whole person? And then part of me also wanted to like beat the boys at everything from like a young age because I'm like, yeah, I know you underestimate me because I'm a girl already. So I'm going to show you how smart I am. I'm going to show you how fast I can run and how I can beat your ass in soccer. Okay. Like, I hated being underestimated, and so I was like a huge tomboy growing up. Like I was constantly playing sports and I like it's funny that simultaneously I fed into the expectations of like what I thought people wanted me to look like, but also like rejected aspects of my femininity that I perceived as weak, right? Like at least appearance gets you somewhere in life, right? So it's like, yeah, I'm gonna use that, but also the rest of the feminine traits, you know, like being sweet and nurturing and I don't know, passive. I wanted to push those away. And it's funny that now it's just not something I really think about as much. I'm completely losing my train of thought here. um, but yeah, it's just now it's just the root. I feel like I've identified the root of all of these like separate issues and like all the pressure I was putting myself in various areas. It just comes from the root that I don't think I'm good enough or like I feel like there's something I need to be other than what I already am. And so like every way that I try and change myself or like look good on paper or look good physically or you know, even now there's a pressure to like let go of things and to grow faster and to like care less. And that's a new bar that's showing its face and that I'm having to check myself on frequently is that like wanting to grow can it's in and itself limit you from growing, or like become another impossible bar that you'll never be able to meet. It's like constantly, it's that analogy of the bucket with a hole in it. Like there's never going to be enough things that I do or accomplish or change about myself to satisfy that. And it's weird having that feeling in my body and also knowing that I'm like, no, I'm already enough. I'm already everything as it is. But I guess part of me doesn't believe that still. Like part of me is like, but are you sure? I don't know. It feels like you're really separate. The part of me that's scared, you know?
Yeah. But then I circle back to that part and say, well, are you sure that we're not enough? You know, how could you be sure? Like it's an assumption. It is an assumption or it's a guess on both sides, right? Or it can feel that way. Because I do feel like there is a lot of beauty in variety. And when I think to a world where every woman looks the same and every man looks the same or fits the same template, that seems so not, I mean, it does seem boring, but it also seems very limiting, very trapped. You know, I love seeing, a man and he has very feminine features and he leans into that. You know, and I love seeing a woman who may have more masculine features and leans into that and doesn't try to force themselves in the direction that they see a lot of their peers going in, but leans into their variation, leans into their uniqueness, because then it gives us all the opportunity to see beauty in something that we didn't expect, and in that comes this beautiful surprise. And so I love that. And it doesn't have to be all men that are that have feminine features need to lean into it, but it's like the option is there and you can do a lot with options. And so I appreciate that. And it also doesn't mean anything about your sexual orientation, because a lot of my resistance to not wanting to be a tomboy ish like in high school was because I didn't want people to assume that all of a sudden that meant that I was like stuck in the closet and just waiting for someone to just give my make my butch lesbian dreams come true, like, you know and it just so I was so nervous that either somebody would think that I'm trying to be a man or somebody would think that I don't want to be a woman. And it was like, okay, so like how could I find this, like I'm supposed to be feminine but not too feminine, because I don't want people to think that like I'm super weak, but then I don't want if I lean too masculine, I don't want them to think that I want to be a man and I'm trapped in a woman's body. And it was like, no, all of this pressure because I thought that there was one type of way to be, depending on the group that you happen to have been implied that you're in. And it's never that, just because a man wears a skirt doesn't mean that he wants to be with men. Just because a woman wants to wear a suit doesn't mean that she wants to be with other women. And even if they do want to be wear the suit and be with women, means nothing about anything. If a man, it just seems like we put so much pressure on just the appearance and not the embodiments and not the expression, and how that expression can feel super authentic and mean nothing more than just an authentic expression of that particular trait. And so I love when I see people challenging the status quo, and I'm inspired, and depending on what your inspiration is, of course, you can go as far in any direction as you want. But I definitely I've recently encountered an example of a man who likes to dress up in women's clothing that doesn't want to be like drag queens, like, but in a different sense. Like they didn't also identify as being a drag queen. It was just that they happened to like getting their hair done, getting their nails done. They happened to like putting on makeup and wearing feminine like clothing, but they very much enjoy being a man, being, what they are, and they also want to date women. So it was like, that's a straight man in my head. I'm like, oh, that's a straight guy who likes to wear dresses. Nothing wrong with that. I was like, that's great. I've got a men's suit in my closet. I don't want to be a man. And I don't want to be with women because I wear a suit. And so because, that means I want to be in men's clothes. I want to live a traditional man's life. I just saw a good deal. I was looking for suits And for, traditionally women's clothing tends to be marked higher in price and tends to be lower quality in material. And so I was looking at women's suits and I was like, okay, 600, 700, 1,000. Okay, I don't know. We're gonna have to save up for this. Okay, who's eating ramen for 3 months? This girl. And we were gonna, but then I looked at the men's suit and I was like, who says I can't buy their suit and have it tailored to my body? And it was amazing. Oh my goodness. I found a 3-piece wool suit and handmade. And it had a vest, it had a beautiful suit jacket. It had like 17,000 pockets. And I'm totally exaggerating, definitely not 17,000, but it had like 8 pockets. And I love pockets, but it had like inside pockets. And I was like, oh my goodness, I could put my cigar. No, I was kidding. I could put my phone, I could put my chapstick, I could put all these different things. There's some emergency money, maybe my leather gloves, and so, and I didn't have to beg for pockets because with women's clothing, I tend to see that we get little to no pockets, and the greatest insults are fake pockets. Not only do we not get great deep pockets, but imagine being drunk and you go to put your phone in your leggings pocket and it's not a real pocket and you're too drunk to remember that it's not a real pocket. Horrifying, horrifying to drop the phone. And I curse thee, whoever decided to make, no, I'm kidding, I'm kidding. but, but,
We've
but
all been there.
oh my God, oh my God.
You're like, fuck, I forgot I was wearing my jeggings.
Oh, and they look like, I was like, this is cruel. This is cruelty beyond measure. How dare thee make pockets that are not true? So, but with the men's suit, oh, a surplus of pockets. They got a pocket on the inside, a pocket on the outside, 2 pockets on the outside, then 3 pockets on the inside. I was like, you bastards. Oh, either way, enough of my ranting about not having great pockets in women's clothing. But with the men's suit, it was like $300 for a 3-piece wool suit that had all the pockets of a girl's dream and was great quality, and I got it to get tailored and it fits like a glove. And it's just such a shame that I needed to think about buying clothes that were designed for this quote unquote other gender, but it's just clothes for people, man. Clothes are just for people, and anybody could wear anything, and it doesn't matter. If I show up to a board meeting, or not a board meeting, it was a regular meeting. If I show up to a regular meeting with my coworkers and I'm in a robe and we're all working from home, big fucking deal. If I show up and I identify as a cisgendered woman and I want to wear a full tuxedo, so fucking what? That means nothing about me or my sexual orientation or anything about my life. It's just the clothes that I happen to put on this human body. And it feels like it really doesn't need to be much more of a conversation than that, except when you have assumptions tied to clothes and what the clothes mean about the person wearing them. And I think it's just such bullshit. And so I so appreciate when I see people that are not that don't identify as being in the LGBTQ community who happen to be challenging the status quo. So I love that guy who wants to date women, who dresses up in women's clothing and then walks into the guy's bathroom like, "What's up, bro? Like my dress?" I love that shit. Oh, I love that shit. I was like, that's right. And I thought that that was so sexy. Like, and it's like, because it was just the confidence to live for themselves, unbothered by the opinions and the judgments that they knew that they were going to get. And I thought there was nothing sexier than that. And yet so many people would disagree with me, that they would think that that is just horrifying, that he's not living the way that he's supposed to be. And I thought that there's nothing sexier he could be doing. And I don't care who wants to date him. Anybody that dates a person who wants to live for themselves, you just hit the fucking jackpot, in my opinion.
Period. Yeah, that's the most attractive thing of all, is just people doing whatever the fuck they want and really not letting other people's expectations even be a factor to them. That's something I still struggle with and that I conformed to for a long time, was like trying to predict what other people were thinking about me or expecting of me. And I relate to what you said of like not wanting to dress masculine in, and like for a lot of my life, like things that I perceived to be masculine, like I don't know, nothing specific, like but I just felt a pressure to to dress girly, especially because I had um interest. Like, I don't know, I was always big into sports and stuff, and like I like to like I wasn't a super girly girl, but I was like, still I don't want people to think that I'm gay. But also that was another thing. Like, I didn't want people to think I'm gay. Turns out I do like girls and I do like boys. So it's like
Right.
I also, with realizing that about myself, I'm like, it's almost like I feel like now I have permission, not permission, but like I feel more comfortable leaning into the more masculine aspects of myself and like really not giving a fuck, because I'm like, okay, now I'm not choosing what I wear based on my internalized male gaze, right? Because I don't really care all that much anymore, or like exclusively what guys were thinking about me. And I'm like, okay, well, that opened things up. And I know that I didn't have to like have a change in my sexual orientation to discover that. But I think that just goes to show like how persuasive those ties between like sexual orientation and the way that you express yourself. It's like people think that if you dress a certain way, that automatically means you must be this. But those two things are completely unrelated when you think about it. It's just something that people have conformed to for a long time. And so people are like, no, but that's a woman's dress, you know? And I think it's so funny, like when both Andrew and Ray posted videos in dresses, and the comments on those videos were just so funny. People were so confused, like, no, but you're a man. Like, that, like, it's just not right. Like, it's like, what's not right about it in reality? Something that's actually a good argument quickly. You know, there's not a persuasive argument, because concepts are never the reality of the thing. You are just reality wearing clothing, or you can even let go of the distinction between that. You're just reality expressing itself. And yeah, we take these things that are complex and multifaceted and multidimensional, like the way that we express ourselves, and we try to force it into binaries and concepts, and yeah, just concepts, so that we can feel like we understand something and we know what to think about it. It's like our brain just wants the shortcut of being like, oh, this means this. And like until we question whether that's the truth, like it's easier just to go on using the programming that you already have, right? And it's an easy way to validate yourself, because you can tell yourself, oh, I'm right, this person's wrong. I know because that's what everyone else always told me. But it's like nowhere written in the laws of the universe. The laws, yeah, nowhere written in like the laws of the universe does it say boys wear suits, girls wear dresses. Boys like blue, girls like pink. Like nowhere.
Mm-mm.
And it's just actually funny how much people hold on to these things. And not to say that I've completely let them go. I feel like the programming does run deep. But it's like once you become aware that, oh yeah, that's not reality, that's not something that I need to confine myself to anymore, you can start to express yourself differently. And I've been having a lot of fun with that, because like I'll have my days where I'm like really tomboy, like I like have a beanie, no makeup, like fucking just relaxed and casual, and I like wearing like big baggy clothes more so, whereas I used to feel like I always had to wear tight clothes to like show off my body, and sometimes I do like to do that because that's fun. I'm like, you know, it's it's fun to like be able to do both. And that has nothing to do with my sexual orientation. Like that's always been how I've wanted to express myself, and I just haven't allowed myself to.
Oh yeah. Because you know what's really wrong? Swamp balls. You know, like tight pants, tight, sweaty balls. Wrong, wrong. Get men in kilts, get them in skirts. Let your balls enjoy the breeze flowing through your neighborhoods, you know, without getting arrested for flashing people on who don't consent, you know. You can still feel the breeze, be covered up, and everybody wins, you know. And I love that, you know, the Scots, they still wear kilts. Nobody turns a nose up at them. Nobody thinks that they're not manly. And then like the laws of the universe, like it's debatable that men, women, boys, girls exist because that's just a concept. It's people exist, and people can wear clothes, and what the people are wearing means nothing about them as an individual. And yet we think in certain societies, in certain cultures, that your clothes are the most important representation of you. And it's like, you know what, I'd rather look at you, the way that you express your life through your choices. That's what I'd much rather take a look at, and not take a look at to judge, but take a look at to appreciate, to maybe be inspired, you know. I was talking about the guy who identifies as straight and wants to dress up in women's clothing but doesn't want to be like a drag queen where they like, you know, they identify as being like a woman some of the time, at least for some of them. And I saw a wonderful example of a young woman who was walking around. I remember this happened like a few years ago, and she was walking around without a bra and small chest, and I thought that she was so sexy. I was like, here she is, beautiful sunny day. She's walking across the crosswalk. I'm stopped at a red light. I'm in my car, and she is just chest up, chest out, bouncing, her little titties just bouncing and just having the best day, living for herself. And I was just like, oh, so sexy. And she doesn't have to have a huge rack or an average or medium sized rack. She just was loving her body and wasn't hiding it at all. And I thought that was so sexy. I thought that was so amazing, that it definitely burst the bubble that I thought that my body needed to be more curvaceous, you know, that I need to have a certain bra size, that I need to have a certain hip waist ratio, that my bottom needs to be fuller and rounder. And it was like, not every menu needs to look the same. And and if you get the opportunity, you know, you might be surprised who would order off of your menu, you know, if you actually portrayed it, if you actually shared your menu. You might be surprised who would be genuinely enthusiastic to take a sample of you, you know, to enjoy you, you know. And because there's so many times where I will talk to a woman who is, you know, dealing with an insecurity, and it goes both ways, right? Because I've talked to my friends who are more well endowed, and they're nervous that their boobs are not big enough, you know. And I'm just like, what's wrong with you? You know, like, what do you mean? And it's like, because insecurity doesn't care what your shape is. The insecurity is that it's not good enough. It doesn't matter if you're on the curvier side and you think you should be slimmer. If you're slimmer and you think you should be curvier. If you're short and you think you should be taller. If you're tall and you think that you're tall but you're lanky and you should be more muscly. And it's like, you know, I used to say when I was in high school that I was not a chubby chaser. And basically what I was saying was that I didn't want to date somebody that I judged to be fat. And there was one guy who blew my stupid little rule out, though, and we never actually did anything, but it was the first time that I recognized that I had a crush on somebody that I judged to be fat. And he was so funny, and he was so much fun to be around, and he was just a blast, and he was cute, right? And but I thought, oh, if you're cute and fat, that's not, you know, that you don't meet my screening process. You don't move to the next round. And he was so cute, and I totally had a crush on him. And I was like, oh my goodness. If he asked me to be his girlfriend right now, I would totally say yes. Like, I was like, he's so cute. He's so much fun. And he made the most of it. And he didn't, you know, he definitely made a lot of self-deprecating jokes, right? And so he definitely did that a little bit, but he did more than that. He wasn't afraid to take up space. You know, he'd be honest, like, I need two chairs. I'm not gonna be uncomfortable for you skinny motherfuckers. And I loved it. I absolutely love that energy, because it's like, I don't care if you are short, which when I think back on like the people that I have been with, either for a night or for a relationship, you know, a lot of them weren't fitting this like idealized version that I was told that I needed to pursue. It was always people, the common theme for the people that I ended up being with were people that were fun to be around. were that it was enjoyable to spend time with them. It was enjoyable to have conversations with them. They were usually smart and witty and sarcastic and funny. And so, I so enjoyed the experience of them that, if you looked at the people that I've been with, for some people they would not be impressed at all. And for me, I had a blast. When I think back to some of them, when I think back to most of them, I'm like, oh my goodness, that was so much fun. I absolutely would do it again. If I knew that we were just going to be hooking up for a couple months or with each other for a couple of years and it was just going to not go into it wouldn't go further than that, like it still didn't feel like I wasted my time, because I was always ending up with people that I resonated with on an experiential level more than a superficial level. And there are definitely a few people that were just checking certain boxes. Absolutely, I did that. But I also realized that when I got with people purely on their looks, I really didn't enjoy spending time with them. And I can almost safely assume that they felt the same way, that they weren't really actually spending time with me because they weren't spending time with me. They were spending time with a checklist in the same way that I was. And so that's why I definitely recommend that, like, maybe you don't fit some the beauty standards of today, but just know that beauty standards change. Because if you go to a different country, they don't like skinny women. In fact, they think you're sick. They think that, like physically sick, like not that they would throw up when they see you, but like they think that you're dying because you're so skinny that they're like, are you okay? Someone get mashed potatoes stat. We've got someone on critical condition, feed her, someone feed her, you know. And the same thing, like sometimes it's short men, short kings. I love that description because it's like it doesn't matter like what bar you don't meet up to, someone can genuinely appreciate you, especially when you appreciate you. And I think that's where we should start. It's not that, do I measure up for someone else? Is like, do I appreciate me just because I exist? Or am I forcing myself to jump through these hoops and then wondering why I feel all this pressure and wondering why I feel like I don't measure up? It's not that other people don't contribute to that, but usually the insecurity starts with you telling yourself that you're not enough and then looking for evidence that supports that claim.
Yep, that hit. You have like a confirmation bias that shapes the way that you perceive everything and everyone around you. And the bias that you have is you're not good enough. And when you have that bias as well, and you have high ass expectations of yourself, every single relationship and friendship you have, you kind of apply those expectations to them as well. And like, I've literally been in relationships with people because, I think on some level we genuinely connected. Like, but then the expectations over time of myself, and like once the initial like excitement wears off, then it's like, oh, I'm attached to this person and they're not meeting and this expectation, and they're actually kind of stinky and like ugly sometimes. And it's like, ooh, and I don't realize that that's my own projection of me feeling like I'm not good enough when I'm not put together, when I'm not in the most quote unquote doing the most quote unquote attractive things. But like everybody has that side of them. Like that's just human. And yeah, I noticed that slowly creeped into some of my relationships. And the more that I've let go of that, I've been able to date people that previously I never would have even considered because they weren't attractive enough. Like we weren't in a similar enough like attractiveness level, or like they weren't smart enough, or like they didn't dress cool enough. Ah, stupid ass standards. And that is not genuine love. Like I think genuine true love is just being able to appreciate somebody for exactly who they are and just wanting to be around them without expecting anything out of them, like not expecting them to validate you in any certain way or act in a certain way, or like buy you things or like take you out on expensive dates, or you know always do like those little things like, oh, if he doesn't open the door for you, or like all of those like expectations that come along with dating and relationships, I think are missing the point. And really just get in the way of what could just be a genuine connection and appreciation for each other. But I think when the attachment comes in, that's when the judgment comes in, because it's like, well, if I'm going out with this person, what is everybody around me going to think about me because of that? That's really where the root comes from, and that gets in the way of being able to tell whether you like somebody genuinely for who they are, or if you like them because of like what they would do for you. That's like, that's a very shallow way of approaching connection. And connection is so sacred. It's one of the most beautiful things that we get to experience, and I like to keep it like pure in its essence, and not try to like understand it or like compartmentalize it or be like, okay, now we're in a talking stage versus now we're dating, now we're in a relationship. Like, that is hella confusing, and there's a lot of expectations tied to that I don't know if I'm jiving with, you know what I mean? Like, why can't we just be ourselves around each other and we enjoy hanging out? That should be enough, right? But a lot of people approach relationships out of need. And that's not to say it's abnormal for need to come up in relationships. It definitely does, but it's just the difference is you taking responsibility for that rather than putting it on the other person. So, like, if you're hanging out with somebody, but yeah, if you're like hanging out with somebody regularly, at least, I'm a little bit jealous. Like, if I see somebody else like flirting with the person that I like, I'm jealous for sure, but I'm not gonna go yell at that person. I'm not gonna be like, why are you talking to them? You know? It's like, okay, that's mine to deal with, unfortunately. So, yeah, that's changed everything though. Like, I can date like anybody that I want to, and I don't really care as much about what other people are gonna think about that, because my relationship should be of no concern to anybody else. And if others are judging me, they're just judging themselves. And what are they judging anyway? Because the illusion of Jackie is very strong, but she is just a mirage. And yet, she is as real as it is, as she's the only real thing at the same time.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, definitely. Because I think when as we're chatting about this and as thoughts are coming to me, I wonder, it's like, are we connecting? Are we compatible? Or is it that our needs are compatible? Is it that our attachment style is compatible? Because when I think back to other relationships, it's like, oh, we connected in our insecurities. Oh, we connected because we were both insecure about a very similar thing, and we coped in a very similar way. And so a lot of that connection was just, our attachment styles and our insecurities were compatible enough because our coping mechanisms were compatible enough. And so that's what I think, for those past relationships. And the needs are going to come up. I definitely have moments where I feel needy and jealous, and then I check that need because my fears are not reality. My insecurities are not reality. Someone that I like talking to somebody else that I think is more beautiful than me absolutely makes me feel insecure, but I'm the one who told myself that that girl is more beautiful than me and that he might like looking at her more than spending time with me, right? So it's that spending time with her might be more enjoyable, and it might be, and that also means nothing about me. I would rather someone be honest than nice. And I would rather pay attention to how you show up throughout all of the times we spend together versus only really hyper focusing on whether or not you open the door for me. or whatever, paying the bill, or, telling me that I look beautiful, noticing when I change my hair, all that normal bullshit that I used to hear about women wanting that from men. It's like, what I'd really appreciate is being treated like a person. I'd really appreciate that. And I can get my own door. And maybe I'd like to get the door for you if it just happens to be that I'm closer to the door knob, why wouldn't I be the one to grab it for us? If you're closer and you felt like it, why, it makes sense that you would grab it, but not because you have to. So I'd rather pay attention to how you show up, and I'd like to pay attention to how you treat yourself, because that ripples across the board to how you would treat me, how you show up when we're sharing time together. So I think that the relationship with ourself is absolutely the most important. When I think about the guy that I like, and I think about him, in like a thought will come, it's like, he's not in the room with me right now, but I am. And that is my priority, is how I'm showing up in this room right now by myself. And the way that I spend time, quote unquote, by myself, I think is the most important time in all of my relationships and friendships. Because if I'm spending my time alone, and I think that that's a problem, and I think that I need to have somebody with me, that living alone is not okay, that living without a partner is not okay, that, not spending every waking moment of my free time, not sharing that with other people is a problem, then when I am with people, I'm not actually seeing them. I'm just seeing that a need is being satisfied, and I'm not paying attention to that moment with these friends and these family members and romantic partners. But when I am enjoying the fuck out of my time by myself, there is nobody around, there's nobody watching, listening, nobody judging, except for maybe me. But when I'm in that space by myself and I am filling all that space by myself, and I don't see anything wrong with that, when I do share time with people, they can feel that I'm not leaning on them, that I'm not using them as a crutch, that I don't need them to do anything for me. And that makes all of my interactions with everyone else so much lighter. But if spending time by myself is super heavy, then usually time spent with other people is also extremely heavy. But when the time that I spend by myself is extremely light, it just feels like I bring that weight, or I bring that lightness with me, because I am the weight, or I am weightless. And so that's why I think the time that you spend by yourself is such a great opportunity to pay attention to what you think is wrong and what you think is available to you, because it trickles over whether you like it to or not. And that's why when I see certain people and they seem so incredibly desperate and so needy, it's like, that you're enough for you. I hope I hope that you can circle back to that and see that you don't need anyone to complete you. Not a friend, not a romantic partner, not a family member, nothing. Like, you don't need to do anything. You are enough exactly as you are right now. And you don't have to learn anything to become enough. You don't have to decide something or acquire something to become enough. You are always enough. And the example that I love to give to people is that for the most part, the moment that you were born and you were in your mother's arms, she looked down at you and thought, perfection. You were completely enough. You couldn't even wipe your own ass. You couldn't even feed yourself. And yet, for most people, somebody thought that you were enough just existing. And I like to bring that back, because you are enough just existing right now, too. And even if no one thought that when you were born, that's because they couldn't see past the concept that they weren't enough. And so they just created something else that they thought was flawed, like them. And so it doesn't matter if no one else thinks that you're not enough just existing. You actually are you are so magnificent and wonderful, and this surplus of potential. You could go in any direction. You could do anything. You could learn anything. Every master was a novice at some point. Everybody is learning and growing. And so it's like, you don't have to become anything, because just you showing up and being your life is magnificent. And so I love to remind myself and to remind other people of that, because then the next time I go pick up my makeup, the next time I put on a dress, the next time I do something that normally would have fed into the concept of me, it's just me picking an option off the menu just because, for the hell of it, just because I wanted to, and not thinking it any further than just making that choice and rocking it.
Yeah, there's so much less weight when you realize that you don't have to hold on to it. Yeah, you existing is proof enough that you're worthy. Like, you wouldn't exist if you weren't supposed to. Like, not that it was like written in the stars somewhere that one day Amanda would be born and the world would change forever. But still, like, everybody exists in the same way. And even though conceptually we have these hierarchies, like, we're all gonna die. So, like, they don't really guarantee your happiness or make you immortal. Like, you're still just a human who burps and farts, right? And has morning breath and probably snores, right? Like, we're all really more similar than we are willing to look at. It's funny because we're all completely different and have completely different experiences, but it's beautiful that you are your variation, and like, you can own that and be proud of like who you are, and not have to base your value based on the things that you've achieved, or the way you look, or all the standards that you're meeting versus not. Yeah, and it's so clear when you look at other people, like, you can appreciate them in a way that they don't appreciate. Like, I see people and then I hear them like be like, "Oh, I hate the way I look in that photo." And I'm like, "You look like gorgeous. Like, what are you talking about?" Like, you were talking about the girl, walking around with her little titties out, no bra. Yeah, like, being able to just own it, and you can see it. You're like, "Oh, that's beautiful in them." Because they're them and they're owning it. It's something about their energy, right? The energy of just being like, fuck what everyone else thinks. I'm valid exactly as the way I am. And those people are usually the people enjoying their lives the most. And that freedom is something that's really attractive. And so, even if you're gorgeous, meeting all the beauty standards. Like, supermodels are a great fucking example, because those are the most insecure women you will ever meet. Like, constantly nitpicking themselves because that's where they think their value lies. Like, it's so closely tied to the way that they look that they're willing to put everything else on the line and like sacrifice their enjoyment and their ability to live their life to the fullest just to keep meeting this standard. And it doesn't actually make you happy the way that everybody has looked at like a beautiful woman and be like, "Oh yeah, I would have no problems if I looked like her." And you'd probably have more problems if you looked like her, to be honest. Or, just the similar amount. I feel like everybody is going through it equally. Like, there's nobody's struggle that's worse. There's nobody's life who's better, and there's nothing wrong with you. Ugh. And how often I forget that. And
Every damn day I forget it.
every day, like, constantly. Uh, but, that's okay too. I know that voice is also lying. And yeah, I like that you pointed it out, like, yeah, but you're full of shit too. Like, the voice in yourself that believes you're not good enough. It's like, that seems like a good amount of false certainty you're settling on right there. Like, you really think you really think you know something, and you don't. And um yeah, that's interesting because I feel like have pushed down, or like I haven't been giving myself credit for things or like being proud of the person I am. And I feel like I've kind of been able to hold on to a negative perception of myself just because I was like afraid of being egotistical kind of or like being perceived that way. So like I've been holding on to these negative beliefs and I've realized like, oh, that's just as egotistical as holding on to like good beliefs about yourself because you're still thinking about yourself. It's egotistical as shit to be insecure. So that's just an interesting way I've been thinking about it. Like it makes sense why we would feel that way. You know, there's nothing wrong with being insecure or having little moments where you have an ego trip if you can just see them for what they are and know that they're not the truth and they don't define you. And you've always been whole from the moment you were born and you couldn't do anything for yourself, you know, to when you were in high school and you were in your awkward stage and you you did a bunch of embarrassing things to now all of those versions of yourself are equally as valuable and you're just as valuable now as you will be when you have lived longer and achieved more and you know change the way you look or not, you know, or you age, you know, you're still just as valuable the whole time. I want to like be able to sink that in though. I want to be able to, and there are times where I really do feel it where I'm like, why am I ever mean to myself? Wow, like I'm so proud of how far I've come. This is like what where I go everywhere every time I do mushrooms also. Like um I just am brought back down to reality beyond like the concepts that are spinning around my mind constantly. And I'm like, "Oh yeah, really shit is not that serious. There's nothing wrong with me and being alive is fun." Um and it's just play. Uh but the highs and lows that come with getting lost in the illusion are fun too. So it takes knowing what confusion feels like to be able to appreciate what clarity feels like.
Oh, absolutely. It is very much, it's very cyclical. And I definitely have moments where I feel like, wow, this is, I feel like I'm accepting of where I'm at. And there are certain times where I feel so caught up in where I should be. And that is just a part of the full spectrum of this experience where I will get to a point where I have relaxed enough that maybe something we've been repressing for so many years has an opportunity to come to the surface. So it's not just like one and done. I have accepted layer 12 of shit. That's it. We're done. It's like, oh, don't you worry. There's infinite layers that you're not even aware exist. And so I will have an insecurity. I will have a fear come up, and I'm like, where the fuck did that come from? I don't even. This isn't in the past 5 years fear index. What's going on? I don't even know where this came from. What is this? This is like ancient, and it's like the fear of abandonment. And I thought that that was not one of my recent insecurities, and it's just one that I haven't been focusing on over the last few years. But when I was relaxed enough, I got to see that my insecurities about my appearance and my beauty and my intelligence were tied to the fear of abandonment, from the family turmoil that arose when I was 11. And I thought that or I didn't see until very recently that the way that I coped with abrupt family change was thinking that I must have done something wrong. And I have met so many adult children of divorce who feel that way, that even though the two adults were in their own relationship, usually toxic, that I must have done something wrong, or I must have not given you know my dad a good enough reason to stay. Maybe if I was smarter, maybe if I was more beautiful, maybe if I was all of these things, and how it was tied to a fear of abandonment. and so I'm like, where the fuck did this come from? Like, I haven't been abandoned any time recently. I've been in adult relationships. I've got a good enough relationship with my family that I'm still in touch with. And so it's like, wait a minute. But it's just like, when I finally was relaxed enough, I could see an older fear that bred other fears, and how they're all interconnected. And so, it's just this cycle of practice and paying attention. Maybe it's like practicing attention. I'm practicing where I put attention, and I'm paying attention to where I put my focus now. And so I think that is just so important to remember, that you're not going to find, it's like being an archaeologist. You're not going to find all the fossils in one day, in one year, in one decade. And you may find something you never expected to find. But just in the pursuit of enjoying the dig, you might encounter some crystallized fear that you didn't even know existed. And you're like, whoa, I didn't even know that this existed. And so I didn't even know to look for it. I was looking for the other, top things, top artifacts to search for in the dirt of my mind. But as I relaxed, I didn't put so much pressure on finding something in the sand. I just enjoyed the digging. And as I enjoyed the digging, whatever came to the surface is whatever came to the surface. And I was in a relaxed enough space to notice it, right? Because there are certain things that I will be in the same room, and I won't even be able to find something that I thought I knew where I put it, whether it's a brush or a lighter, or a phone, a pair of glasses. I lose these all the time. And I live in a shoebox. I joke, I love my little shoebox. It's perfect for one person, but I say that I live in a shoebox, and I lose things in my shoebox, and I'm like, it's 2 by 2 feet. How are we losing anything? And it's because I'm putting all this pressure to find things right now, not now, but right now. And so, like, all this pressure, all this tension. But when you relax, you get to when you relax and you stop caring about finding something, everything seems to just come right into your lap. And so I love that, like the checking out, like, okay, fuck it, I'm not gonna look for this anymore. And I don't even know what I'm looking for. I'm not even looking, I'm just digging. And I'm just enjoying each each uh each round, just for the sake of being there. So I definitely appreciate that, and I'm so glad that we get to chat about this, Jackie, because I do this multiple times a day, let alone once a day, like going through the cycle of just, ooh, that's, not liking that. Oh, okay, we're relaxed, we're not paying attention, or we're not searching, we're not pressuring ourselves, and just realizing that I don't have to. And that's what I've been telling myself. Keep going, or my two favorite words lately. But the other thing that I tend to say to myself recently is just that, I'm scared, and I don't really know why. I'm scared, and I don't actually have to be, because being fearful is usually assuming that your assumption is a fact. I assume I'm not enough. I assume I'm not doing something I'm supposed to. I assume something, and I take that assumption and I treat it like an absolute fact. And it's like, I don't know. I don't have to. I just don't have to. And no matter how certain I can be, there is no certainty, because there's no way that I could speak and just say that I know for sure I'm not measuring up. It's like, yeah, in this moment, it feels like I'm not measuring up, but I can't actually say that I'm not measuring up. And so it's just reminding myself that I don't have to. I don't have to. And then it kind of dissipates to some degree on its own, without having to like get rid of it.
Yeah. It's like you're just stop feeding it, and it like becomes less intense. But yeah, that's the cycle. And I think that's what the rest of life is gonna be. It's just existing, experiencing things as they arise, and just naturally changing because of it. And yeah, I'm fucking sick and tired of trying to grow and trying to change. That's where all the fucking weight comes from. Because also wanting to grow and change, I think is tied to my judgment of where I'm at right now. I'm like, well, this isn't good enough, but if I am, if I know that I can and should be better and that I'm forcing myself to get better, then I can feel a little bit better about where I am right now. But really, just right now is okay. And I think that sentiment of trying to grow has been getting in my way because I put pressure on myself to grow in specific ways when in reality, I don't know what's best for me. I don't know what's going on at all. I don't know what I'm actually dealing with. I don't know what I'm letting go of, if anything. So it's kind of counterintuitive to think about it. I think I should just allow myself to fucking exist without any bars and then just see how it goes. And I think that's when I'll be able to naturally express myself authentically. I mean, I'm always expressing myself authentically because even when I'm being fake, I'm being fake. I'm really being fake. You know what I mean? But it's still, yeah, like it's authentic fakeness. But I don't know, like I'm just interested to see what I become without trying to become something. And that doesn't mean I'm just gonna like lie around all day. Recently, I've been noticing that is not actually what I want to do, but that's just that's like, getting caught in a doom scroll or like staying in my house all day, like trying to figure out what I should do next. That's a consequence of me feeling like there's a right thing that I should be doing and then getting anxious and then getting into a freeze state and like not being able to do anything. And I want to experience more. And a great way to do that is just opening up your mind, opening up your future and not like creating a certain timeline or a plan and just kind of going where the wind not just going where the wind takes you, but like discerning on a moment to moment basis what it is you want and what it is you need and allow yourself to authentically express. And the more that I've done that, I've surprised myself with where my life has gone. Um, but yeah, I think the more that I'm accepting of just who and what I am right now and the fact that there's no getting anywhere, like the more expressive and authentic and free that I will feel. And not that that's something to be sought after because even that can become a bar. But fuck, like I just want to give myself a break, like relax. Relax. I can feel myself holding on to so much shit. And like you said, I'm scared. I'm insecure and I don't know why. Just like desperately part of me is still trying to be like, control, please. Like, for the love of God. Like, please don't tell me it doesn't exist. And I'm like, die, die, die.
Say it isn't so. Don't speak such tragedies into existence. Oh my God. But I think it's important to like see the relationship between judgments and pressure and weight. The more you judge, the more pressure you feel. The more pressure you feel, the more weight you feel. And so they're all tied together. And so, but they're usually driven by a false certainty, some assumption that you know how things are supposed to be. And because you have that assumption, that false certainty of I know how things should be, I judge everything else. I put pressure on myself and everyone else. And then I feel this unbearable fucking weight. Like they're usually all in the same, they're all usually tied together. But, when you feel that, and weight is like a great indicator, like life feels heavy. And so then you're like, oh, but it feels so heavy because I feel so much pressure. It's like, okay, yeah, but you feel so much pressure because you judged the fuck out of yourself. And you only judged the fuck out of yourself because you assumed that you knew what was supposed to be. And it's not that right now. And so like that's my gauge for a lot of things now. Does it feel heavy? And is it heavy with the pressure that's usually, and we could describe it as the expectations, the assumptions, the expectations, all of that feels heavy. So that's my gauge. Does it feel heavy to talk to someone? Does it feel heavy to be in someone's life, or vice versa, have them in mind? Does it feel heavy to work this job? And then not only does that, give me a sense of how the experience feels to me, it also doesn't give me license to just say that it's wrong. Because it's heavy, that friend is bad for me. Because it feels heavy, this relationship is not working for me. Because it feels heavy, this job is the worst thing for me. It's that I bring just as much weight as I feel the weight of others. So it gives me an opportunity to burst my own fucking bubble. That's like, what am I assuming? What am I assuming is supposed to be happening that isn't happening? And I could just let that go. So, perfect example where you're talking about being jealous about a romantic partner. It's like, I feel the weight because I judge myself as not being enough. And that's not entirely true. You know, regardless of how somebody walks in or walks out of your life, doesn't mean anything about you, because when you have a genuine appreciation and love for your friends and your families and your romantic partners, tying them down doesn't feel like the way that you want to express your love. So if they are growing in a different direction, you think, fucking go for it. Fuck my insecurity. Even as you take a step away from me and my insecurity pops up, that still isn't a fact. That still isn't something that I know to be true. And it gives me an opportunity to hold on to the fact that I was being incredibly needy with you. And I didn't have to be. And usually, not usually, but hilariously recently, I've been noticing that it from my perspective, it feels like I'm letting people go on some level, and I've never felt closer. And it doesn't make any sense to me. It feels so counterintuitive that when I was really adamant about being in someone's life and being their best friend ever, or being the best girlfriend, or being the best daughter, or being the best fucking coworker, when I was incredibly obsessed with that and I felt so incredibly needy, I felt thousands of miles apart from them. And now that I'm letting go and I am totally giving myself space and saying, I could want to walk away and that'd be okay. They could want to walk in a different direction and that'd be totally okay. And they don't have to stay and I don't have to stay. Nobody has to do anything. We can all just take one step at a time, and be the step that we're on, not thinking about what the next step should be. We can just make the most of the step that we're on, and whoever is on that step with me, let's make the fucking most out of it. And if your next step just happens to not look like it, just happens to not have me in it in a visible way, that's okay, man. Step away, step on, like rock on. I love that. And as I've been embodying that kind of mindset, it's amazing how much closer I feel to myself, to reality, and to everyone that chooses to spend time with me. It feels incredible that I can be like detached without being numb. And I didn't think that that was possible. I thought that my attachment came with the emotions or vice versa. And so if I thought that I was detached, it was like, oh, I was numb. I didn't care. But I cared incredible amounts without attaching. And it just feels so counterintuitive that the more I let go, the closer I feel. It makes no sense to me, Jackie. I am fucking perplexed over here.
No, I relate to that a lot. Like, the more I've taken responsibility for my own life and recognized that I don't really need anybody, I can genuinely be present in the moment with them, and I get so much more of that, and there's like more of a thrill because they don't owe me anything. And like, it's so beautiful because it's fleeting and you're like, "Oh, I'm experiencing this right now." Like, how wonderful. And it's okay that it's not always going to be here, because if it was, I would probably grow to resent it, right? So, yeah. And it's funny, I was having a conversation with somebody yesterday and I was like, I feel like I just want, and I kind of mentioned at the beginning of the episode, I've just been wanting like silence and alone time. And I just feel like I can't get close enough to the present. I like want to be fully here. And it feels like I keep getting sucked back into my mind. And it's like I can so clearly feel like there are times where I feel very present and very like in tune with everything. And that's when I'm the most like at peace because I'm like, okay, I'm only really worrying about what's directly around me. Everything's good right now. I'm chilling in my room, like whatever, wherever it is that I am. I'm like, wow, there's so much here to appreciate. Like this is the meaning of life. Like just being able to feel and be and experience. But the more I get caught up in judging myself or thinking about journeys or like where I'm at or like what I need to work on, it feels like there's a pressure and weight and distance. And I feel like dissociated almost, or like there's a fog that I can't seem to like clear. And there's this weight in my chest, and I feel like I can't get a full breath. And yeah, it's interesting how my like mental state or like the weight that I'm putting on myself is like manifesting in like physical sensations recently. Um, but it's cool to observe this process in this way. But I feel like the best way to be close to reality is to just stop feeding those thoughts when they come up, the judgments, the insecurities, the false certainties. You noticing them for what they are and not judging yourself for having them come up, just noticing them, and then they can pass on through, and then you're just back where you are. And that is so full in and of itself. And life is so much more vibrant when you're not comparing it to the idea of what you think it should be. And so I think, yeah, I definitely relate to the feeling of like the more I let go, the more connected I feel. Because I've always been connected. It was the idea of myself, the belief in duality as reality, getting in the way. But I've always been me. I've always been enough. And I've always been playing out the way I should because there's no way I shouldn't. So it really doesn't have to feel so high stakes all the time or like so heavy. And it's nice to be able to put that weight down sometimes. These conversations help me so much, Amanda. Like it's amazing being able to chat about this and just like the reality of what being a human is like and just what our consciousness is like. People don't talk about this, but it's the realest thing that there is. It's the thing that all of us can't escape. And yeah, it's nice to know that I'm not alone and like and to break new ground with you. It's really I just appreciate it so much. And that also, I feel like this beautiful relationship that we have, Amanda, is so free of need and it's so valuable to me. And like I love you so much and I don't need anything from you. And it's so beautiful. And yeah, it's just like I have no words. It's just like I love you. Thank you. Like
I
thank you for just being you and not needing me to be anything or not trying to put on a front and being so open about it even because I don't know, in conversation sometimes it can be hard to bring up the things that are really at the root of it all or calling yourself on your own bluff or talking about something that doesn't paint you in the best light. And I've just appreciated how open we can be with each other. So, and for everybody listening, thanks for being here. Like, thanks for allowing us to express ourselves on this platform. Just know that, like, anybody else's voice is just as valid as our own. Like, yours is the most important voice. So, like, you can listen to the things that we say and consider them, but your journey is your own. And we're just trying to show that like that doesn't look any certain way. We're just trying to be as authentic as we can. And it's just been a beautiful process to witness.
Oh my goodness. I absolutely adore you, Jackie. I love you. I am so glad. And I do feel incredibly light, and the conversations that we have are just hilarious, unpleasant, and full of opportunity, and just can and so like surprising, and I appreciate that. And the way that I think of our conversations is just like if the two of us were in the same city and we met up to go to the gym. We're taking turns doing our reps, and we're just talking about it as we're doing reps in real time. And so, like, that's why it feels like, no, I know you don't need me. And I love hearing about your adventures, and I love hearing you own it, even when it doesn't feel great, even when it doesn't support the idea of Jackie. I love seeing the expression of Jackie. And I am so thrilled that I get to do reps with you to talk about, oh my goodness, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this one. My legs are shaking. You know? Spot me, Jackie, spot me. Whew. All right, back up, back up. We put the weight back on the bar. You know, like I love that because sometimes you do feel incredibly shaky, but it's like you fucking got this. And I'm so glad that we get to have these conversations. And for everybody that's watching, like, a lot of the people that are watching, especially right now, are people that we chat with, that are people in the DU community that inspire a lot of these conversations. Because when our schedules can have space for it, we record on Wednesdays, and then we jump into the public call at 6 p.m. every Wednesday, 3 p.m. Pacific. And then we jump into the Patreon calls, and all of those conversations inspire the conversations that you and I have, where it's just the two of us, chatting on Zoom. And all of our conversations and all of those assumption bubbles getting burst in real time in our day to day, all of those inspire us. And it's like we have a surplus of inspiration because we're always being influenced by the environment around us, and we're always influencing the environment around us and within us. So it's thank you so much, everybody, for just showing up for you. And I'm so glad that showing up for you sometimes is you listening to a couple of crazy people talking to themselves. I love that because I talk to myself all the time. I narrate in different languages. I talk to myself in English and in Spanish. Sometimes we put on a Scottish accent, sometimes we put on a British one, sometimes we are animated, sometimes like I talk to myself in so many ways that I'm like, if anybody listens to me, I'm going straight into a straitjacket. They're not gonna hesitate, but I'm gonna bedazzle that shit. I will make the most of my time in the mental asylum because fuck, man, I am my life. And no matter where you put me, I am still my life. And I'm so glad that we all get to remind ourselves of that. And I'm so happy that Jackie, you and I chat both on camera and off camera, and we share so much with each other because we are our relationship, we are our friendship. And I feel so incredibly lucky, and I appreciate our chats, and I appreciate just ripping open some of these insecurities and diving deep into them, knowing that it's going to be unpleasant, and knowing that that means nothing about us, and being able to hold hands metaphorically and jump off the fucking cliff together every once in a while, and then sometimes be like, you want to go to the pool, the in-ground pool? Me too. I'm not feeling cliff ready today. I'm being honest about that because it's a pendulum that swings, and so it doesn't always have to look the same to be authentic. And so I'm so glad that we are just space for ourselves and for each other, and for these conversations that really give inadvertently feels like it creates more space, but in to some degree it's not that we're creating more space, is that we're not building more walls that make it feel like we have less space. And I'm so glad to not be on a construction zone crew with you. No more walls. We're building bridges, motherfucker.
Yeah, it's like we're just talking to each other as, the idea of ourselves and all the false certainty that we built up just sort of dissolves. And we're talking about how that feels because it's not pleasant, but it's liberating and expansive at the same time. And cool to watch that unfold, you know, week to week. We show up in different states, going through different things, but we still show up. And we have faith in ourselves to be able to, you know, record a podcast episode, like say words and come up with thoughts, right? But yeah, it's cool. It's like it literally is like jumping off a cliff together, and um it's just fun. So, yeah, I can't wait for next week's episode, quite honestly, and for Do You Real this Friday and every Friday, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We stream on Twitch and YouTube and LinkedIn, which is hilarious. All of them. So tune in if you can. And yeah, we'll be back with another conversation soon. This was a great one. And love ya.
Yeah, we'll see you guys next week. We'll record, and then this Friday, the you real. So I think that is it, because we don't want to have too many announcements. You know, we got to keep the people wanting more. We can't show all the cookies in the cookie jar just yet. But stay tuned for more cookies on the horizon.
All right, bye everybody.